Are you weary of the bitter feelings that you've carried around for so long? Are you tired of being held back by resentment that's clouded your life for years? You do have a choice, you know. You can change. You can be bitter, or you can be better. Come along on this journey of self-discovery, as we examine practical ways to end the bitterness that's shrouded you like a heavy blanket and start building a life of freedom and fulfillment. It's time to put bitterness behind you. Let's begin. First, let's take a quick look at the seesaw fluctuating emotions of bitter or better. Both are responses to something difficult or challenging in one's life. In reality, they're different ways of responding to the exact same difficulty or challenging situation. In one way, you can choose to react negatively, dwelling on the negative emotions, and allow them to consume you, or you can make a wholly different choice. You can choose to be positive regardless. You can choose to be better. Now let's get an understanding. We're not talking about something devastating or tragic happening in one's life, or something horrible happening to oneself. There are definitely those situations where bitterness is more than understandable. It's even normal. And dare we say it's understandable if you're carrying the bitterness around for years. Understandable, yes, though we say it's not healthy. You see, bitterness is like a weed. It chokes the very life and vitality out of your spirit and soul. In that case, dear one, you most likely need professional help to deal with your issue, in order to get past it. We've said it before, and we'll never tire of saying this, and that is, please don't be afraid to speak with a professional. If you're part of a culture where that isn't allowed, it's frowned upon, or even dangerous for you, then reach out to trusted family or friends, who can provide a listening ear, a sympathetic heart that's for your good, for guidance and constructive support. Life has dealt many of us blows that has leveled us, yet we're still doing the best we can. We want you to do better. More than that, we want you all to be the best you can be. And have the best life ever. Now, let's key in on this. The meaning of bitterness that we're talking about is you harboring anger, resentment, or negativity due to a setback or disappointment. This involves you dwelling on past feelings of being treated unfairly, trust having been breached, lied to, or lied on, neglected, stood up and left waiting with no good cause, cheated on, and left grievously hurt and massively disappointed. You being bitter here is you allowing negative emotions to control your actions, emotions, and mindset, while dwelling on feelings of betrayal, rejection, or having been treated unfairly. On the other hand, being better means adopting a positive, going forward approach. This mindset involves you focusing on personal growth, resilience, mental toughness, and strength, even as you face adversity, unfair treatment, or a terrible breach of trust. Now hear us, we're not saying that rising above and choosing to be better, instead of being bitter, is easy. Most things involving deep rejection, hurt, betrayal, or disappointment usually isn't easy. But it's doable. How, you may ask? Because you get to choose. You get to choose to continue to choke on the bitterness you're carrying around, or you can choose to swallow it and move on. Don't you think it's time? Can you acknowledge that the only person you're really hurting with your bitterness is you? Can you sadly admit that the people or person you're bitter at have gone on with their life or lives, and they're just fine? Perhaps they've even gotten accustomed to your frostiness or curt attitude, to the point where they simply ignore it. As if it's just a negative part of your personality that people have learned to ignore and overlook, and not the result of an act or acts that have occurred, that they had a hand in. Want to know the real sadness here? They've forgotten all about it. Put it right out of their heads, and have moved on. And here you are, like a car stuck in the mud, just spinning your wheels and going nowhere at all. How are you supposed to do this, you may be asking? What happened to you was wrong on so many levels, and you can still feel the sting of the hurt, as your eyes water up, like it occurred yesterday, when in actuality it happened some time ago, even maybe years ago. Give us a few minutes more and let's hash this out. First, let's begin with acknowledging you're bitter. All arguments aside, you're astute enough to recognize, and yes, admit, that you're not over that thing that's in the pit of you, eating away at your soul. You will never get fully over this until you acknowledge that you're mad, and hurt, and want them to eat a cup of dirt. My little sister will likely chuckle and tell you that that's a favorite term of mine, eat a cup of dirt. It's a descriptive term I use to describe someone wanting someone else to have a taste of their own medicine, a taste of something nasty and unpalatable. It's not about wishing harm, or wanting someone to get ill. It's simply about the horrid vile taste of dirt, and this being a bit of that person's own medicine, and see how they like it. Understand? So choosing to let go of bitterness means to first acknowledge it, and acknowledging all the negative emotions that go along with it. Now come on dears, bitterness is rarely an emotion we keep to ourselves, we share it by the way we act, and talk to people, and not just the one or ones that hurt you. Oh no, bitterness is like an uncovered sneeze, parts of which lands on anyone close at hand. And forgive the analogy, but it does work, right? And no one wants to keep a cold, but rather we go through medicines, mother's soup, and other ways to get rid of it, don't we? See the bitterness you harbor, in the same way. Recognize and acknowledge all the negative emotions that you've been expressing. Feel them, and allow yourselves to process them without judging yourself. This chat isn't about making you feel bad, but rather setting you free, okay? Bitterness is a natural human response, but you don't have to keep it, nor do you have to allow it to define the whole rest of your life. You really can let it go. You have to choose to. Notice how I didn't say, you simply have to choose to. Because it's not simple. Human emotions rarely are, especially the more negative or painful ones. They're like a bad tattoo, that's ugly to look at, and tough to get rid of. It'll take time and will likely hurt, but one day it will be gone. You have to choose to let the tattoo go. The same with bitterness. You have to choose to let the bitterness go. It's hampering you. Of course, I don't know you all personally, or have any information on your life, or why you're in the bitter state you're in, but I can say this with a level of assurance and truth: bitterness is hindering your ability to grow, develop, and change. Remember what I said earlier? Bitterness is like a weed that chokes the very life and vitality out of your spirit and soul. Can't you see? There's no way you can fully develop into the you you're meant to be. You can't grow, and the bitterness is keeping you from changing. Sisters, there's a path we're all supposed to be on. The path of life and living, and heaven forbid life find us at the end of our days, in the same exact spot. How dare us start the journey at 20, and at 70 there you still are. We're meant to change, and grow, and develop into someone grand and marvelous, relevant, and contributing to the mass of humanity, or at least to the betterment of our own little village. Right? Our lives are legacies we leave behind, and the legacies we leave are all the people we've poured into, and cared for, along the way. Then how in the world are you able to do that when you're bitter, and all you can pour is acid and venom? Don't you see? For the sake of the village we have to grow and change, and choose. We have to choose, every day, to be better than we were the day before. We must choose better over bitter. Choosing it every day, until every drop of bitter is gone. Forgive, dear sister. Forgive her, him. Forgive them. Forgive. Then let it go. If you have to write it all down, then burn the paper in the fire pit, do it. If you have to go into your basement and scream your head off, do it. If you have to sit on your bed and cry your eyes out for an hour, do it. Then wipe your tears and never cry over it again. Move on. The same way bitterness is a weed, forgiveness is a flower that once planted, can grow into something colorful, and fragrant, and beautiful. It simply needs to be cultivated. That's forgiveness. It's a process, it has to be cultivated over time, the same way you plant and tend to a flower, see? It takes time to grow. The same with forgiveness. It takes time to grow, once you've planted it. It's a process, yet well worth it. Letting go of bitterness, the resentment, and the grudges, frees you from all the negative emotions, and creates a space for healing and growth. So let today be the day. The day you make the decision to let go of bitterness, and choose to be better instead. Then watch the amazing effects this one choice can have on your life and those around you. Never forget that you can always change the course of your life and live the life you've always wanted. It's just a choice away. Thanks for tuning into our video. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more great content on self-love, healthy relationships, and personal growth. Until next time.